And Mike is in the waiting room.
Did you change view? You got speaker view rather than have it be?
Yeah. You want?
Just that's not displaying my name the entire time. It might be under more if you say. Yeah, I know. Sorry, you're dealing with a massive bar. You know what? I give up. Let's just go with it.
Go for it.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your patience. We're starting a little late, particularly you in the room. It is 7:16 p.m. and I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Capital Improvement Program Committee to order. It's January 21st, 2026. Members present are myself, James Marshall, Christina Malos, Ken from Koo, Jeremy Brothers, and Jason Ross. All right.
Mike is in the waiting room.
Up and soon to be joined. And Michael McCoo. Mike, can you hear us?
I can indeed. Can you hear me?
Oh, it's amazing, but we can.
By hook or by crook, we're here.
We got it. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your patience as we work to get this, as we got this set up. Meeting's been called to order. First up on the agenda is present to speak. We have nobody online, but I believe everybody in the room is here for your respective departments. So moving on, new business, approval of minutes for our last meeting, January 14th, 2026. They are the first in your big stack of paper.
I'll move to accept the minutes of January 14th. Second.
Accept, Jen. Seconded. Any discussion?
No, I didn't.
Aaron Farrow.
All right, hearing none. All those in favor, let's just do a roll call because I don't know what we're doing with technology these days. Jason?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
So, aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, Jen, aye. Mike?
I abstain since I haven't reviewed them.
All right, there we go. Your roll call was important. One
Thank you.
abstention. Minutes are approved. Very much. All right, moving on. Today's focus is department submission interviews. We have 4 departments ahead of us today: Conservation Commission, Library, Parks and Rec, and the Assessor. We got a big stack of paper here. I think it's mostly the library. So that's the order I have you guys in. Bob, I think we'll start with conservation because you're short and sweet generally. I only have one.
I think that's helpful. I can drag this out if you like.
Thank you. We'll recognize Bob Shabbat, member of the Conservation Commission, to go over our submission for the year.
Thanks.
It's record 25 here.
Yep. Insofar as our request this year, we're requesting, well, actually for the next 5 years, we're requesting $40,000 per year for our work in town. Just like to say that that includes acquisition of open space properties, maintenance on the trails in the park, and for programming, we'll bring people in for various programs. This last year, we were able to
Sorry, Bob, one second. I don't know. It's actually 25.9. The 25.2 is land use they were coming in next year. Policies, that's that last minute. We're looking at paper that is head up. Related to you, so I apologize.
no, I mean, I'll keep it up.
Yeah, pass it.
So this past year, we were able to acquire the Petix property. We closed on that in March. And it's. Looking at all my little. Sheets here, there was about 7 acres that we added to the, Fenton Ruby Park.
Was that expended? I know you guys wanted to go.
Well, it was an expansion to Fenton Ruby. And,
It's like,
we were able to acquire that, the land was, 27,500, and that was, under the valued, property, the price of the property, which was 35,000. So the owner sold it to us at a discounted rate. The various things, all told, it was, $35,474. Again, the land was 27,500. Appraisal was $1,700. Dam inspection was $350. Remediation was $2,386. And that included, removing a camp, a decrepit camp that was on the, property. Legal costs were, 1,963. And signage was, 1,575. That's a bronze plaque that was added to the, large stone at the, parking lot of the, Fenton Ruby Park. And one of the things that sometimes it arises where people say, well, what do you need that money for? Well, it's just not for the land. Each piece of property comes with, a certain amount of baggage with it. And, there's usually, appraisal costs. And I would just, refer back to the, Talmadge Estate property that we, closed on in 2022. That was a 16-acre parcel. The total cost of the land was $125,000. The appraisal costs, and because we went for state grants, we had to have 2 appraisals done. So the appraisals were $4,000. The A2 survey for that property was $12,800. So. And both those, the appraisal and the survey costs, rapidly increase as you increase the size of the property. And those costs aren't going down. So. The thing that we try to do, if it's warranted, is apply for deep grants. And at this point, we've gotten grants for the first Talmadge property in 05, the Knowlton property in 09, and the Talmadge Estate property in 22. All told, we've brought into the town $460,625 in grant money. The town's share of those 3 pieces of property came to $414,375. With the Pedix property, we chose not to do the grant route simply because of the amount of work that's involved. When we did the Talmadge Estate property, that was 16 acres of property, we generated a report to the state of over, I think it was 86 pages. And the state came back and required, I think, additional A2 surveys for reference points on the property. So the amount of time and effort to do the grant study for the Pedix property, because they sold it to us at below market rate, we didn't feel that it was justified to go for the state grant, just for our time and well-being of minds, really. And it has gotten more difficult to work with the state through their grant process. So,
Definitely an acquired skill.
it,
Um,
yeah, and I might attribute some of my hair loss to that last grant application.
so. Bob, this request is really to replenish and to create a fund that you guys can use so that you have money available when opportunity strikes.
Right, so
So-
to be open with this group, right now, the open space fund has approximately $121,000 in it. And that there's some give and take there. We're not sure if there were any subdivision lots that added to the fund, or if anybody backed out of a PA 490 property prematurely. And those items add to the open space fund as well. So the only other thing is that I would say that in the plan of conservation and development, the town has set a goal of setting aside 20% of our land area as open space. To this point, we're at 12%. And that 12% includes the Nipmuc Forest, Yukon Forest, town properties, and subdivision open space. So it's not just the park, and it's just not the properties down on Mason Road that everybody has access to. Some of the properties we don't have access to because it abuts subdivisions, and in order to get there, you need to walk through somebody's property. So that's the scoop. And something else that everybody seems to ask is like, well, have you guys got anything in the pipeline? Presently, we're trying to work with the Powell family. They have a property of 33 acres on Jared Sparks Road. The interest in that property is that the Jared Sparks Homestead Foundation sits on that property. And a quick history lesson, Jared Sparks is considered the first historian of the United States. He was president of Harvard. He was the chaplain in the House of Representatives in Washington, and he was a Unitarian minister. That in a nutshell. Also, there is a 200-acre property for sale that would make wonderful open space, hiking trails and such. And that's being offered by the King family.
Oh, on Jared Sparks?
Yep.
Oh,
And if anybody has 250,000, no, I take that back. $750,000 that you would like to see if we could get a grant for maybe half of it, we'd be more than happy to engage the King family in negotiations for that piece of property. So that's it. We're asking for 40,000 for the next 5 years. Last year, we were given 35,000. Thank you very much. So that's where we stand, and those are the numbers that I have for you.
Thank
If
you,
there's
sir.
any questions, I'd be more than happy to try to answer them.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm not sure that this is entirely relevant to any of this conversation. I'm curious, though, if you know of what percent of roughly average, your best guess, of the open space property that we currently have is 12% in
Yes.
town, right? So what percent of that was acquired by grants?
The Talmadge one property was acquired, was 28 acres. The Knowlton property was 138 acres, and the Talmadge estate was 16. The Fenton Ruby Park is approximately 300 acres.
You know how many acres 20% of our town is?
Yeah, I haven't got those.
It's all right.
I haven't got those numbers right.
It's all right. I also wanted to make sure I heard, what you were saying about getting the grants, because I'm a big advocate of whatever money we can get through grants, whatever services, things we can get through grants, we should be doing that. So the process for you guys is cumbersome and, not fruitful. Is that what I heard about?
It's just with any grant. And we'll just talk about what we're doing for open space. You know, some years there's more money available than others. I'll give you a quick rundown insofar as the entire price of a property with the three that we got grants for. One of them, the state kicked in 59%. Another one, they kicked in 49%, and the last one, they kicked in 65%. And it's a matter of really paying attention to where the property is and dotting the i's and crossing the t's. The commission has been very vigilant when we're filling those applications out. That's why we generated 80-some pages with this for the last grant for the 16 acres. It's very, very time consuming. It's going into getting all the background on the land, the history, the appraisals, the A2 surveys. There's a lot. You know, everybody says, oh, we really appreciate everybody that volunteers their time. This is above and beyond volunteering for the Conservation Commission when they do a grant like this. The town does not have a grant writer.
Right.
That's not even in the conversation. So it falls on the conservation members to do all this digging, make all the contacts. So we do the best we can.
And I 100% understand that grant writing is a skill. It's a skill that only a very minute percentage of the population possess. I'm only asking because I think when we ask you guys, not you in particular, not even you people that are in the room right now, but just the town, to come and talk about needs, I think it's important that the resources are available for people. So, I've just come to that conclusion.
And one of the things that's very important when you're doing grants, and I've done grants for the Historical Society as well. And one thing that you have to be mindful of, that when they're asking questions, you just can't assume that you've answered the question previously. Each question that's asked on the grant has to be answered in full, so that when the question is asked, underneath that question, everything that pertains to that question needs to be there to answer that particular question on that particular page. If you have two questions that are very similar on the same page, you've got to redo that so it answers the question standalone.
Yeah. And I also understand the volunteer nature of the commission and the importance. Okay, sorry, one more question. Do you have any sense as to how what you're asking for today will dovetail into the plan of conservation that's being proposed?
Plan of conservation and development lasts 10 years.
Yep.
We're due in 28, right?
Plenty of requests.
So what we're what our ongoing mindset with the Conservation Commission is keep our ears and open to anybody that would be wanting to conserve their property. And then being able to respond in a reasonable manner. And that's key when somebody comes here, because we don't, it's like, it might be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or it might not be for 2 years. The idea of having the money available in the open space fund is when somebody comes to us and says, yes, I'm willing to work with you, I'm willing to wait, because usually the process, if you go through the state, takes about 2 years from beginning to end. So we need to have the money, so at least we can show the landowner that we're gonna make some progress. And progress is, oh, we need to get 2 appraisals of the property. Well, you have to go through and, you get a list and it's like, oh, well, no, we don't do this, and it takes a couple of months to find 2 people or 2 firms to say, yes, we'll do that, and this is the price for that, for those appraisals. Then you have to go around and say, okay, now we need to get a survey, an A2 survey done. So all these things, we have to, what you're doing is you're funding us so that we can act professionally when a landowner comes to us and says, yes, I'd like to work with you. And if we can't act in a responsible amount of time, people start saying, well, what are you guys really about? So that's pretty embarrassing when you're going around asking and then you can't come through.
Mhm.
So that's what we're looking at, and some people would say, oh my God, you've got $121,000 in the open space fund. But if we went to do an A2 survey on 200 acres of land and 2 appraisals, there's a pretty good chunk of that gone.
I appreciate that sentiment generally, Bob, because I know we're on CIP working towards trying to improve a capital reserve fund to avoid for some similar reasons.
So,
Just quick follow-up related to, so we haven't had an annual commitment to the open space fund going back very far this yet, right? I think it's only, this is like your 3rd or 4th year that we've had requests.
well,
Wow.
it-
They
I
always
know,
ask.
they both.
so last,
They haven't.
so last year, we had gotten 35,000. The 2 previous years, we had gotten 25,000. And I believe the previous year for that, we got 30,000. It was a 1 lump sum. Before that, basically CIP was saying, well, come, when you find a piece of property, come to us and we've got your backs. And to be fair, with several of these properties, they did, but it took how many months to be able to start the process? And we don't know if somebody's gonna come to us with 5 acres of property, or if somebody's gonna come to us with 200 acres of property. And it's just a matter of being prepared.
So I think, I think you're right. It was 25,000. It was a request for 30,000 a couple of years back, and then it was reduced during the budget process to 25. That grew last year because of the vet review property. I think the request was up to 40,000, knowing that you were in pursuit of that additional 7-acre parcel.
Well,
I guess-
wink, wink, we're in pursuit of another 32 acres, right?
So I guess that's what I'm trying to get a feel for is,
So I guess the
Is there
bottom,
question?
so I guess
You know,
the
is
bottom
there-
line, if you want to take and you want to expand your view, Tolland has bonded something like $6 or $8 million to purchase open space. And the reason they did that and why it should be on our agenda as well is that they understand, and I think we do also to a point, that it's less expensive to keep large pieces of land in open space than to have them developed into subdivisions and then have more kids to educate, and we all know what the cost of education is per student. So that's something that should be looked at. You know, at least in the back of your mind, you know, make a note on the back of the sheet of paper that you're tallying. That is a possibility and it is an additional cost to the town.
I mean. Also, though, I love open space, everybody, I love open space. But that's also removed from the rules for tax purposes as well. So,
But it saves you tax money because you don't have to educate children.
but if we had businesses in those,
Well, all, what we try to do is find parcels of property that are close to other parcels that are set aside. So that, and it benefits the idea of open space
Mhm.
if you bundle these parcels close together so that you have wildlife corridors. So that it's, you know, it's just no different than trying to say, oh, well, we're gonna set this section of town off for industrial development. Well, think of open space as saving that area for wildlife and for recreation.
I appreciate that distinction.
And as we as a society become more urbanized, we look at, and we had a discussion last night about preservation of farmland. And more, it's like, oh, let's pack the kids or just the wife and husband into the car and let's get entertained by going picking apples. So agriculture and open space has become entertainment for us. Is that a bad thing? No, because it's, oh, I mean, we have kids walk into the tavern when we have it open and we have fires at tree lighting. And kids will be, we've seen little kids tug on their parents, it's like, oh my God, there's a fire in the house. They've never seen a house with a fireplace. So that's getting off subject, but so, you know, there, you can tie an awful lot into retention of open space. Everybody drives around town and they take so much of this open space for granted. Guess what? Somebody owns all those fields. Somebody owns all those pieces of woodland. It's not guaranteed that we're gonna continue to live like this. Unless we act. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Bob, or I think I'm all set, I think.
Yes.
It facts, so thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in, I appreciate it, Bob. All right. So. It looks like Lisa put Parks and Rec ahead of the library in our packets. Again, I'll get you both here. We have. I don't know how many requests we have, Steve.
Yeah, there's several, so go ahead.
I
I would say, I know, it'll probably be a long conversation, so I'd rather defer to other people if they want to get called.
Yeah, Rachel, are you?
Whatever.
If you're okay, I think it might be easier to just
That's
Yeah, Parks and Rec, group, is there any requests? And I know I'm gonna try to share something. On your behalf.
I also, I. Put it out to it's all over banks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, that's me. Sir. You're doing that, great. All right. Much easier to see, but at least those watching the recording have to see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Uh. All right. So what do we have here? So thank you, Rachel, for coming in. We have 3 requests from Parks and Rec, all related to, River Road Athletic Complex. I'll advance screen. We'll take it in whatever order your presentation.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
All right.
Yeah, so, I would say the guardrail, it extends the whole length of the parking lot at River Road. So it prevents a barrier from the parking area into like the playing fields. There's multiple sections, the posts and the rails, it's all wood where it's decaying in several spots. So you can see on the left, that's just one picture of what one post looks like. There's also rails where the wood is literally like sagging because it's starting to decay from the inside out. There's posts when you look from the top down, you can see the wood is splitting from the inside out. I don't have pictures of that for this. But this, I think, is a priority for Parks and Rec to get this replaced. Because it is that safety barrier between kids playing sports and on the playground and people walking on the track. At many hours of the day. I did get a quote from Landworks. The same style fence that is there currently, that would be that timber guardrail. And so that 28,470 would be the removal and installing the new, wood rails and posts. Then at the more expensive side, it's that metal guardrail, and you can see a picture there. It looks like the highway, typical highway guardrails that you see. That's on the more expensive side. In terms of, how long they're gonna last, the current guardrail has been there for about 15 years and it's all wood. So if we were to replace it with that, it would probably last about 15 years. If you were to go with all metal, according to the salesman, he said it would last forever as long as it, doesn't get hit, and it has to be repaired. A repair on the metal is going to be more expensive than a repair with the wood. So I put another image below the metal guardrail of what I think a good middle ground would probably be, and I don't have a cost on that. But if they're metal posts with the wood, rail that is in front of the metal, so that can easily be replaced or more easily be replaced. The problem with the current guardrail is that the wood is inserted in like a slat, into the post. So in order to replace the rails, the posts have to be removed, and they are all connected the whole length of it, pretty much, minus a few entrances. So I think that this metal with wood would be a good middle ground. Yeah, I don't have a price on it. But I think that would be a better long-term solution for replacement and longevity.
Was that something that Landworks
sent it also?
No, I found this after,
Okay.
after I had already received the quote, so I'll have to get a new quote on that. I don't know where that is gonna come in, but he did say that the cost of materials is going up significantly, which is why I put the submission at 50,000, just taking into account that the costs will go up. And I don't know when this will get done.
So you noted some deterioration.
Mm-hmm.
Been there, I think, seen it.
All
Yeah,
So as a safety concern, you do have those listed as a year two priority.
yeah.
Whereas the pickleball lighting for one is to year one request. So I guess my question is are we concerned with any? Should this be more present? Is there a more present?
So, yeah, I would say yes, and I would be interested just personally on what the metal or wood would be, because I think it's more aesthetically pleasing than that.
Are you talking about the metal,
The
the
one that
metal
you-
guardrail, like on the top
The
there?
metal over the
Rail.
wood, like the one that you suggested.
Okay.
I didn't get a quote on, I'm sorry.
Right,
I think it's more,
Yeah,
it won't be as dramatic, it won't look like a highway.
right, yes. It's a little more nice to the eye.
And I don't think it'd be as expensive as the metal.
Correct, yeah.
And if somebody hits it, it's more easier to fix a piece of oak or four by six or whatever. it is.
I mean, this really functions. By curbside.
Exactly.
It's right. It's not like a highway. We're not talking a highway. So it's gotta withstand the ability to replace it, so damage from time for somebody hitting this in the bumper.
Yes.
Jim, can I just make a comment?
Absolutely.
I also echoing the aesthetics of the, I guess we'll call it the hybrid of metal posts and wood rail. On top of the aesthetics, there is, at least to some extent, casual gathering that goes along at that rail, and people sit on the wooden rails sometimes. And so the this all metal guardrail is not conducive to that. So I think, maybe that's a factor that might be in favor of that combination metal with the wood rail design.
I think we're in agreement on. Maybe we should. Let us see, shooting resubmission of the price of an item. Just to see where it lands.
Yeah, so I guess the question becomes.
How much that would be.
How much that would be, what was the,
I mean, the metal was 40, the wood was 20.
we're gonna be in the neighborhood.
I'm gonna say you're in the neighborhood of gonna be probably closer to that 35 to 38, because you're still pouring concrete, you're still. Still got some metal there,
Yeah, I don't.
not
think
as
there's
much
gonna be
as extruded.
I don't think there's gonna be any in the order of magnitude changes, that changes the order of
No,
magnitude.
I don't.
These are these, I guess the question being, if. Is this something, Parks and Rec is able to act on? Earlier than year two, if,
Yeah,
I'm gonna say this is,
I didn't realize
Priority
I
over-
submitted it for that.
I think at this point, it's just.
It's flexible.
yeah, I just didn't want to, it's great of you to, but you've already got somebody in the, so you've only had the one, Landworks.
Yeah,
About
I
this
have the one
today.
quote, yeah.
And ultimately, if we approve funding, this is gonna have to go, releasing these funds, it's gonna have to go for the town at a later date anyway. They'll want. Sell them, the voters at town meeting.
Mhm.
So I think there's time to garner that detailing or make the decision on what parts, practice.
But I think we should maybe relocate this.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that as a potential consideration. So,
I agree for safety reasons. You know, get the car, somebody put it in drive instead of reverse. And there's people walking right there at the post.
And we rented in the town, I believe, rented the pavilion.
yeah,
Or this becomes a.
So, yeah, I think it becomes a safety issue with Parks and Rec.
So what we'll say on this one, Rachel, is if you have opportunities, requests from your event there, updated
Yeah.
price, that third scenario, if it comes in, great, please forward it along. It would be helpful.
Towards the end of the season.
Well, towards the end of the season,
I-
4 weeks away,
It's
so,
4 weeks away, I get it. They're not putting fences in -20 degree weather.
regardless, I think it's something to follow up on, because you're gonna need it.
Yeah.
As you go to actually fund this project.
Mhm.
Any other questions or anything to add?
This Melissa's joining that, time, so.
You? And for the record, Peter Bacon joined at 7:04, I think, Pete.
Thank you, sir.
You can ask Melissa on the meeting.
Melissa, can you unmute, please?
Yep,
Oh, perfect. Hi, Melissa.
hi.
The record, Melissa McKinnon joining at 7:56 PM. Virtually. All right,
Right, I mean,
next up,
the next up, I think we. That one.
so let's talk about pickleball, since that was year one, and
Back.
oh, that next on the list. Yes.
Yeah, so the pickleball court install was completed in November 2020. 4. November 2024. So in order to complete the project, there's the current, the conduit and the electrical bases are currently in place, and ready to install the lighting poles and all the electrical components. It's just, we need the funding in order to do it. And so, Joe Colangelo, that's on the commission, provided the $30,000 quote, on installing it, and they've done a lot of work at the park already, with electrical. So this would just complete the project for pickleball. I'm working on adding some pickleball programming, for the summer. And getting a pickleball instructor. Pickleball is a really popular thing right now, and a lot of times they're adding pickleball and lights to their courts. So it'd be a very high traffic spot. And big addition to that park.
I admittedly am not over there for regular play pickleball, but I'm wondering,
I am.
is it seeing a lot of use, since it was, this was, if I remember, a little bit contentious, and a lot of people questioning whether funding should be provided on pickleball court, when it was. When it eventually made it through town meeting and got approval, I'm curious, have you had success without the lighting? Are we getting a lot of interest? Are we getting a lot of schedule? Do you have leads?
So we don't have any programming yet. I would like to start some programming there. When I started last March, I got so many calls about when is the pickleball court opening? And there was still some other work that needed to be done last spring in terms of the drainage and everything around the pickleball court. It was all mud and there was no path to the entrance. So it took a little bit longer to get the project completed. That's why I didn't put any programming in place. So it has gotten a lot of use. I don't know in terms of like numbers, what that looks like. I can't provide that information because I haven't offered any programs yet. I know that Jimmy, when he was here, he did a bunch of pickleball classes, like intro level stuff. And that was really popular.
They were just for adults, though. I only know because I Sam to know. May I ask a question? This is way before your time, but do you have any idea why the lighting wasn't included in the pickleball project in the first place?
I don't know, but I can ask, at the commission meeting on Monday, like more information.
I would
Okay.
appreciate that.
I suspect it was us. I mean, I.
I'm gonna say it was DE'd out.
Us?
Yeah.
Did you say?
Us.
Oh.
It was Diet Engineer.
No, I mean, it's something that's, I mean, I appreciate the fact that they put the infrastructure in place. it makes it more economical now, but,
Well, I just wanna make sure that there's not money that was allocated for that and it didn't get done or something like that.
I don't recall that being the
I think
case.
it was,
No.
we had started talking, first approved it in like 2018
Yeah.
for $30,000. And then by the time it got done,
Yeah.
30,000. Didn't
dropped
go
a
to-
little bit.
Yeah, it didn't go.
But
as
my
far.
understanding is that it did go over and Jimmy had to pull funds from spots to complete the project.
Okay.
Do you have any, do you think there's potential programming in place? Coming to them?
Yeah, I'm trying to find a pickleball instructor right now. So we can get something on there this summer.
We wouldn't be able to find a grant fund something like this.
I mean, we could look for it, but
Yeah, the time eligible. I mean, it's just an idea.
yeah, I don't think that Parks and Rec isn't aware of any other outside grants for pickleball.
I get, I understand.
Any other questions? Rachel?
No,
All right. Thank you, and now for our second larger land project. Second.
So this is obviously a lot bigger, the number. I know that the soccer field lighting was submitted to CIP about like 10 years ago. And so I'm submitting it again. Soccer is very, 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 very popular in town. And we rent that field out. That is where we make our money. And NEU is the primary rental outside source of that. I know that they've asked if they could bring in lighting, like the big
generator time.
yeah, they've asked if they could bring that in and I have said yes, but they didn't end up doing it, I think because of costs. I don't know exactly why, but by adding in lighting at the soccer field, it would we could generate more revenue. We could bring in a lot of other outside programs to fill in gaps that we're not currently renting the space. So for example, this past year, NEU rented the field for about 150 hours. We charge $15 an hour, which was a little like $22.50 was the income on that roughly. The CRPA, which is the Connecticut Rec and Park Association, they had a survey that was submitted asking all of the towns what their costs were for facility, field space with lights. And on average, for the 13 towns that submitted, regular field, not turf, with lights, it was about 90 per hour. The high end was 200 an hour. And then the low end was about, I believe it's like about 60 an hour, 50, 60 an hour. And so that would, going off of the 150 hours from this past year, that would bring the revenue up to 13,500. And that's not including the additional hours per day that we could offer and the other weekend day that we're currently not renting it. Yeah, it would also extend the season. I mean, there's not a lot of lit field space directly in this area. So, we could rent the field a lot later into the year, into November, late into November. I was told that somebody also would rent it in the winter too, as long as there wasn't snow on the ground, if it's lit. So that's, I guess, also an opportunity there.
So no matter, trying to understand, so no matter what time of day, you get to charge more for a field with lights than a field without lights?
Yeah, so some towns are charging for the field space, and then if it has lights, they're charging an additional light fee. On top of that, and then. They're able to increase the field price when it has lights on it, and then they're able to charge an additional fee for them using the lights. Then there's also the added layer if they also have turf. That adds another layer to it, which I didn't include in this, because that's a whole other fault.
So this is just lighting for the soccer field. We're not talking about any,
Correct.
I don't remember what.
Is it- There already
The-
lights on
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
on the baseball field.
Yeah,
No,
Oh.
no,
No.
so the track has
The track.
lights, the volleyball has lights, basketball has lights. Hopefully hopefully pickleball will have lights.
let's give it up for trying to treat it on the field. I'm just trying to remember what else.
And so if, let's say that you had revenue of $15,000 a year, though, it still would. It would take 15 years for this to pay
Correct.
for itself,
But-
and even then, we're still paying the electricity costs too, so.
Correct, but this is going off the current 150 hours. This is not
Okay.
including
Oh,
the
oh.
additional hours that we could gain
Right,
from
right.
having the lights each day and the depth into the year as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more hours that you can get out of that. If you want me to do the math, I can do that separately.
Yeah.
To give you a better idea of what that would be, but yeah, minimally, it was about 16.67 years it would take going off of that 13,500.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, so by then we can replace something.
By then you replace the LED lights at that time.
Yeah.
They, once they go out, the whole picture is out, so.
Oh, is
replace the
that
whole
right?
picture.
Yeah.
But they are LED, right? Like, I have
There's
no
still
idea what the
lifespan,
electrical cost
and
is.
they're not nowhere near what they say they are. You start turning yellow, then they fall. What was this in year?
This is year 2.
You can disagree the years. This is my first go around.
You did a great job, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
And to be fair, there's still lots of things being submitted in year 1, year 2, because
yeah,
like you said, this was on here 10 years ago. I just found that it was a $300,000 request, 2018.
Things go down.
Huh?
We don't usually have things go down.
I know.
I mean, I would. You look at the supportive paperwork for the supporting quote, it's just there.
Yeah, do you have any, for this and the pickleball?
You have like
actual
their proposal.
You could
I
send
can
their-
get it from him. I don't have like an official documented quote. I have it written in an email. From him.
That's.
If you could request it, that would be helpful, just to give a little bit better sense of.
Sure. I mean, all the details I put in this. All of the details that he included in the email are on this.
Yeah, I like to look at the inclusions, the exclusions.
Yeah, so he hasn't actually, he provided an informal.
Right.
Approximate.
Correct, yeah.
I believe on the other one was the same, and that's the pickleballs had a formal.
Yeah,
That's a lot simpler than this. This has excavation, this has conduits, this has a lot of other components.
Let's pull the pickleballs, pull some wiring and producing 2 poles and stuff.
Correct. This is a lot more invasive.
Yeah.
And I would like to really see your quote to see if it's all really true.
Whether it covers something for trenching, you know, or.
I mean,
or it's what.
Sorry, the contract. I write them, look at them all the time.
All right. If it becomes available. Yes.
What?
All right, if
Yeah.
there's any.
Yeah.
Proposal would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a year two request, so we're not.
No, it's not.
In the budget and whether, whether it says you can do. we'll
Yeah, but
talk
year
about
two
it.
is getting crowded.
Start job in a couple of weeks.
I know. Well, that's, that.
Yeah, so, again, any information you provide helps us justify. Wherever it lands. With it all being ultimately recognizing, you try to find ways of getting them funded, well, look more expeditiously than we have here. So. All right. Any other questions for Rachel? Going once, going twice, anybody online? All right, thank you, Rachel, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right. You're welcome to sit through library presentations, but we won't feel hurt if you don't want to get home. All right, next up, and thank you for your patience, Steve, for being willing to accommodate slight shifts. We have the library, Steve Osgood, the library director. Thank you, Steve, welcome. And the rest of this stuff, I think, is you. So.
I apologize that you got that much, I had to print out all of that.
No,
It makes sense that library brings you a book to read.
Yeah.
right? No, we appreciate, I mean, just up front, I'm not, I jest, but reality is, this is more comprehensive, I think, than we're
Yeah.
traditionally have seen from the
Tried,
library.
tried to do my best, it's the
Uh,
first year, so.
So, keep up the good work and we appreciate it. If it's, I don't know what order we have these, whether she kept them in any particular numerical order, but, do you have anything, a specific sequence you want to speak to, or can I call out the project?
I tried to organize, I did a copy of the printout that kind of cut out some of the text, but I could call out the numbers for the CIPs that I've listed
All
in
right,
order.
let's see what you got for starters.
CIP 25-7.
Perfect, it's the first one, it's like.
I did.
Good. Let me just stop sharing this. Perfect. All right, so this is library phone conversion. This is the Concord voice over IP. Which, if I'm not mistaken, I'll let you present it, but you had already discussed this last season before finance, but didn't request it.
Yeah, because I think it wasn't really deemed as high of an emergency as the computers that we got the extra funding from some leftover health insurance savings because our computers were non-Windows 11 compliant and they're gonna go out in October and not be, I mean, we have CEN to protect the computers, but any software, anything like that, there are a lot of vulnerabilities. So we prioritize that over the phones, but since then, the phones have actually gotten a little bit worse. In the past week or so, one of the front circulation phones is stuck with a error that we're trying to troubleshoot with our IT support team. It's a Cisco phone, so I tried calling Cisco first. We don't have an agreement with them, so they won't help us. Reached out to CEN because maybe it was a networking issue. They're saying it's not a networking issue, so Tab's trying to help out. We do have a component downstairs with an ATN number, which is just an identifier tag. So we're hoping they might be able to set up an appointment to come in and check that. But one of our phones out front is down, so we only have one line up front for receiving inbound calls. And in the process of trying to troubleshoot the other phone that's down, I unplugged mine, tried to plug the other one in to see if it worked. It didn't, and when I plugged mine in, now it's stuck saying initializing network. So now I do not have that type of phone line. We have a cell phone, but essentially anybody that calls to the library asking for me, I've been telling staff, please let them know that, they can reach me at my cell phone or contact the library's cell phone and I can contact them that way. So it's gotten a lot worse, but we also get messages from Otis about the copper being unreliable and being a potential safety hazard to have the phone line. Goodness forbid there's ever an incident to try and call out and get the fire department there if the elevator was an issue. But I think even 20 years ago, the phones themselves are original to the building, so they're 20 years old. I believe at one point we had 6 dedicated phone handsets. There were 4 in the back, 2 up front, plus our fax and the line out for the elevator. And now we're down to essentially 3 or 2. So that's definitely a very more dire situation in terms of communication safety, but also just in general, copper supposed to be phased out years ago. They still bring it up, but just switching over to VoIP is just a modern upgrade. I think I did include a quote from Tab. They're our main vendor. Obviously, we go out to bid, but similar to the computers, having them be able to tag and be a part of it and monitor it would be beneficial. The models they recommended would also include a cordless option so that, say I'm downstairs in the community room, or say Deb's, assistant director, actually, should just point out our assistant director, Deb Linares, is behind me, but if they're running a program or doing something downstairs in the kids' room, someone's calling for her and say like, front desk answers it. Oh yeah, let me patch it over to Deb. She could have a phone on her hip and answer it versus, especially if it's something urgent, versus having to interrupt or leave the desk, especially because we do keep our staff pretty slim. We usually don't want anyone leaving unless there's someone else there to man the front circ desk. So
You guys are dealing with functional issues.
yeah,
Are you dealing with service costs or?
we do pay a monthly fee to Frontier for it. So I mean, obviously, if we have fewer phones working and we're still paying the same rate.
No, I mean, when you're not doing anything to remediate the fact that you're down one line, you're not.
Just currently trying to troubleshoot.
Trying to troubleshoot.
Yeah.
We're not hitting your budget.
No, not yet. Trying to avoid that as much as possible. We're hoping because both phones will turn on and work that it's some kind of connection issue, something that reading software wise between the IT room and the phone. So we're hoping that it can be something that's repaired. We do have a service contract with that for 4 hours a month. So if we go over that, then we have to pay more, but we try to schedule it so that we rarely go over that 4 hour limit.
This was one that came in, we already approved the plan. Last year, and I do remember.
Yeah.
I think the hope was that this is back again now. I think the hope was that we could find alternative sources such as mostly funds. And it's sat for years.
Because that and the computers came
Right, the
in,
computers came in, Board of Finance did that in the general fund.
right, and then that came in right after.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't as urgent and now it's the year one and as a CIP request, should have the actual details. We can look at other funding opportunities that aren't into the vote, so.
We've also occasionally, but again, it's not necessarily a safety or security issue where the phone, basically our security system, I think it's 10 or 20, maybe 30 seconds, hits every single sensor and checks our phone lines to make sure they're active. For a while, it was happening 2 or 3 times a week where we could be throwing a false alarm that the phone's not reading out to the security system. It hadn't happened for a few months. It just happened yesterday, but that could just be it's throwing false alarm and it's just bad timing. But the other concern is that it could be that the phone system's failing, out for a certain period of time. Every time it tries to ping back and it fails. Yeah.
I just have a question about the impact on the operating budget. You were talking about the fact that this would cost $11,000, including, the just in case part of it. But then you mentioned removing the roof assessment.
Yeah, so we talked about the roof assessment, I think even with the last board, and they were surprised at the cost. And I know it's actually on this presentation, I think one of the requests for the roof. We had someone come out and do an assessment, at least a partial assessment for free. And even talking to them, they said at least one vendor, I think it was $250 for residential for a full assessment and $350 for commercial. I'm assuming that's the industry standard, so it would be a very low cost if we needed to go out to other vendors for the roof to have them do a full assessment of that. So I think that could fall off and be more of a maintenance budget line item. If we really need to get more quotes, we could put it as maintenance or repairs to get a full assessment. But yeah, some people said, $10,000 for an assessment. Where was that quote from? And yeah.
So that is the implication that those funds could then be reallocated to,
No, that was
For the
the year 5S in last year's plan, right? Correct? For the year.
I think so.
Yes, there was no funding for it. It was, we carried a $10,000 request from the library for roof assessment in year 5. That's no longer here, but you do have replacement projects plan instead.
So is the answer that there's no?
There's no,
It's too big.
yeah, 10,000. Remove the future request, but there's no funding that's being offset.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless I'm,
Yeah, no, that's my assumption is that, yeah, by taking off that request, at least it's something that in the long term would be in a future ask.
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, any questions on that one, guys? Girls?
No. Yeah,
Next.
I mean,
Oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
I'm
No, you're
sorry.
good.
Oh,
So I guess there is. Is that something that's missing? Like, does there need to be a mechanism for removing things from a plan? Like,
so technically, if it's pulled, the approval of this plan or future plan would be the mechanism, because we haven't allocated funding for it. It only becomes a problem if it's year one, and if it's hit the budget.
Right.
I'm looking at Christina, she's
Yeah.
way longer than I am. But it hasn't, because it never advanced to a year one request. It's just a prospective project that has been removed from consideration by the library.
so we just need to make sure that that's documented somewhere as Steve did in this thing. That it gets off the plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you didn't renew the request, so we're assuming it's. Yeah, there's no like formal. Funds haven't been allocated towards anything, so there's no.
Yeah, we've had a lot of conversations though about making the plan more realistic, and if we're trying to do that, then I would imagine.
With that all being said, the approval for the year.
Yeah, he's got the report for that directly. Sorry, I'm wrong.
Sorry,
Yeah, I think it pulled.
8181 was 8,000 was a quote.
Yeah. Their quotes usually last only about 30 to 45 days, so there's a likely chance it would increase, and I also put in a 20% contingency buffer, so it could be significantly less than the 10 or 11,000. It could end up being only 9, and, you know, I would probably shop, you know, I'd probably ask for if there's other models that they recommend. This one I think was most comparable to what we have. And I think also one of the pieces of hardware would be replacing the downstairs system that reads to the phones. I think that was a significant part of the quote.
So that is, the onus is kind of on us, as if these get approved, to then follow up to see where they stand. The business office, I mentioned.
Yeah, it just seemed like
As long as those here, but
just a $1,000 extra and it was like, whoa. Well, I don't see that much.
well,
I don't see how much that can go up in over, let's say a year.
it's a year, it'll be a year and a half. Give or take, by the time funding. This would be funded if it stays in year one. I don't know what inflation does, but yeah. All right. What do you got next,
The
Steve?
next one was 2514.
Yeah, okay, look at that one.
Well, what's the next one you have? I don't mind jumping around.
Oh, wait,
Eight,
or 25-8.
perfect.
Let's see.
Yeah, we have a numerical order, it looks like, we don't have this.
Is that the library carpet?
That is.
Yeah, lower that down.
Downstairs, yeah. Yeah, so that does get a lot of love. We do rent that out frequently to all kinds of groups, both for free and for revenue. Again, it's original to the building, so 20 years of love and general deterioration. You know, it's getting harder every year to really vacuum it up and clean it up. So this request was to essentially replace the carpeting. One possibility I'd like to explore is modular carpeting. That would be an option where instead of every X number of years, when the carpet is just completely stained and messed up at all, you know, in certain areas, is instead of a tiled modular carpeting, we could pull it up and order replacement and have that be a part of the library's operating budget for repairs and maintenance, rather than every 15, 20 years coming back for probably a much bigger cost to redo the entire carpet.
You don't have, this is a couple of years out. Years,
Yeah, just knowing that I think there's a couple other things on here that are more significant in terms of the structural integrity and safety of the building. That, you know, it's a good to have, and obviously, again, you know, so when we have people check out the community room, whether it's for free or, you know, a cost, especially if it's a cost, you know, we want to make sure it looks nice and that it's presentable.
Carpeting is desired down there.
Yeah, At least it's consistent with the rest of the library, outside of the first tenth with it. It's kind of like a
I know a
tile.
lot of people are going with ELVT just for.
So that, I mean, you can even do something like Corvo, which is kind of really. Adorable, like, I have good practice. But. I think. This advances to your request, that you got time, or you're getting quotes. This potentially something to plan for.
So is this for specifically the community room, or this is the community room and the hallways?
It would potentially cover the hallways too.
This amount?
Yeah. Yeah, I would assume probably because with the carpeting stuff, it's probably all connected unless we were to have them. Disjoint it or disconnect it in some way, but obviously then it kind of. Messes with the aesthetics, so it'd probably be ideal to try and get all of it done in one go, but. There might be options there.
Beautiful man. For. Cost at this point, yep. Any other questions on other flooring? Once gone twice. 2511, Steve, that is the interior painting, walls and doors for $75,000.
Yeah, so this is well before my time, but the paint that was utilized is not the best quality. It's difficult to wash. It has risk of abrasions, and so I think this was a prior request before I started as director, but there's been a desire to redo the paint and get a better quality paint on all the walls. But again, obviously, I opted to push it out a little bit, just knowing that there's some more significant structural and security requests that I put in for this 5-year plan.
Year 5.
Yeah, you're 5.
Do you have any, do you have any funding for general maintenance or isolated projects? Yeah,
Yeah, we do have a repair and a maintenance budget. Combined, it's about $13,000 a year. And obviously varies year to year of certain things that are coming up in the budget. Like actually this coming August, so in the next fiscal year, we have about 2,800 maintenance bill that's gonna be pressure and stress testing our elevator for Otis, so that's every 5 years. That's all that's gonna fall underneath that budget line item that it would normally fall into, so.
I'm just thinking out loud, I swear there's opportunities fighting this off in pieces rather than. What I assume is.
Yeah, well, that would be a cost.
If it's not in your maintenance budget necessarily, but I mean, I'm just, because I'm sure not everything's wearing at the same rate.
Yeah, no. And our custodian did find, I think, get the brand name, but essentially like almost like a white, looks like a bar of soap, but it's a different material that's been able to help alleviate some of the scuffing and some of the markings, but
Magic eraser.
it's kind of more, it's kind of more of a Band-Aid than a fix. So.
All right. Bill? All right, we have 2512 next up on the list. That is the flat roof. The rear of the building, flat roof rubber replacement, $40,000 request. I don't know what year.
Year 5.
Thank you. Year 5, so you're out of ways. So that's an original membrane.
Yeah, and they did say it was in good condition, but that they usually last 15 to 20 years.
You have
depending.
somebody up there to inspect it?
Yeah, they took a look, they saw some small, like, little bits of potential cracking that, again, we might just have to use maintenance to patch, seal, and coat. They had initially recommended that it be, the guy said, if you're gonna do a roofing project, you might as well have an entire roof on the same schedule, but they said it wasn't as high of a priority as the shingle roof. I think the main concern with it is it does carry the HVAC system on top of it, so just making sure, probably routine checks to make sure that none of those cracks are getting into anywhere where it is compromising the integrity of the roof. But he just based off of just kind of drawing sight lines, I think have his laser pointer to try and do the rough square footage. I sent him a copy of the building specs, but he said probably around 30,000 at the time. So I'm assuming if we don't do it till year 5, it would probably be closer to 40, just assuming potential rate of inflation, but it may go up higher.
So do you have somebody else, they give you any formal inspection or,
No formal inspection, no
That's
formal
important.
quote. I did have another contractor, but they did it by phone. They just basically took a Google Earth aerial view and just tried to give a copy of the specs, and they gave a rough estimate. They seem to kind of say a similar amount for the flat roof and the and a comparable amount for the shingled roofs too. But yeah, so far it seems to be in good shape. It's just keeping an eye on it, and
no active leaks that you're
Yeah.
aware of?
no active leaks, but I have noticed I've gone up once or twice, usually with a contractor, but occasionally my own, just to check and just know what's up there. But we've seen
Get
some.
some you time.
Yeah.
Got a lawn chair out there.
We have a couple of drains up there for the snow and water, and occasionally some debris just ends up either from the shingled roof or other areas builds up around it. So myself or generally ask the custodian, but I've done that once when I noticed it when we we're doing the roof inspection. I brought a rake and some other tools to just basically pull back stuff that was blocking the drainage.
Yeah, we don't.
Which again is another thing that preserves the lifespan. It's not having ice and things build up and not drain properly.
Do you have a schedule for inspecting that? Fairly?
Not yet,
Well,
no. Yeah, yeah. It's usually as availability comes. I know right now for our custodian, the main focus is basically every few days with salt and sand out. When you first enter the library, it's completely coated. He cleaned it up on Tuesday, and it looks like it has gone through the ringer already. So that's gonna really be pretty habitual for the rest of the winter, is cleaning up all the salt. And they use a finer product to protect some of the front entry area, but it gets caught up in the shoes a lot easier, so it tracks a lot faster around the building.
So do you have, this is branching a little too broader subject, you know, have a maintenance plan at the library for regular inspection of systems?
Not a firm one in place yet, no.
I think, all right.
We've been trying to get some things on the books in terms of, like
Just,
our regular routine maintenance on fire alarms and smoke detectors. Actually, that's coming up on the 28th. Everyone's supposed to do once or twice a year. They check all the motion sensors and all the smoke alarms. We've been working with our custodian to do some regular grounds maintenance. We have some tubes for mud wasps around the building that need inclusion. So it's a work in progress, but a lot of stuff is just, as I've been learning what has or hasn't been done or is overdue, trying to pick it up and make note of when it's done and set a calendar to get it on the schedule every year.
well, I mean, that's.
A PM record would be good on.
So, and then that's, I mean, that goes back to the facility management discussion from last year, right? We don't have, like, this. No, I know, but,
Well, I would like to call it a facilities tech,
yeah,
that he can go do things. You call him a manager, he does nothing.
That's.
no, but it's really, I mean, so, it's goes back to the larger discussion, and I know Steve, this is directed at specifically, it's a townwide thing, and trying to find a resolution so that we can, even if it's somebody to assist
Yeah,
these departments in getting that preventative maintenance schedule and or, in general inspections.
yeah, no, it's something definitely going through grad school, they did not, that's one of the, I did do a course on grant writing, but they touch management. Management courses don't go as really into building management and utilities and working with contractors. It's
I'd like to say nor should they, but I feel like that's not true.
a lot more rural libraries and smaller libraries, they have to hold that hat.
All right. Anything else on that big project? Another one later on the list.
Thanks.
No, it's not. Completion of unfinished basement. I said because this is a meaty one, I think, that gonna take a while. Let's just delve in. All right, so we have that one next, the CIP 2513. completion of the unfinished basement into the teen space. Talked about this on our facility tours with you a little bit. Steve did forward along as a part of this application. I did something separately.
Yeah, and I know I listed as a YA area in the application, but really when you look at the schematics and going into it, it's a lot, it's more than just that. You know, the Friends would still have a dedicated space. The custodian would still have a dedicated space and the opportunity for additional meeting rooms and meeting space. You know, the YA area is you know, a significant part of it, but it would also do a lot of upgrades, you know, for those again that went through the tour. You know, you walk over and see the Friends area and it's just a massive pile of cardboard boxes. There is some storage over there and some shelving, but really giving them an isolated, dedicated space, especially knowing how much they help every year to fundraise, to cover programming costs for the library that we don't ask the town for. In addition, just having secured storage for custodial space. You know, a lot of stuff is kind of sequestered in certain areas, but completing that would be something I would like to see done, just because it's been 20 years and over time it's just collected and become more of a unfinished basement. There is an opportunity for grant funding, and it would, you know, it is a very time involved process. It would probably have to start next January with the state and getting the library board on board with that and getting stakeholders involved. But that could cover, especially knowing that we're on our last year of the 20-year bond cycle for the building. But that it should be paid off, I think, after the next fiscal year, if I'm remembering correctly, like 156 or 58,000. I think next year is the last year.
I think next year, is it this year or next year? Sorry, scroll over. It is this year, is your last year
Okay,
coming up.
so that is falling off,
Meaning-
which, yeah.
Yeah, you're one of our plans up here.
So that recurring payment falling off, I think also opens up for the opportunity to have a higher chance of getting a grant from the state that would cover 50% of the costs. I put the 100,000 more as a placeholder too, because we do have funding opportunities between the state grants and investment funds that could cover the majority of the cost. If we got the 50%, we wouldn't even do this 100,000.
That's year 3. So quick math, like 6,000 square feet of space down there that you're fitting out. Previously unfinished, includes a couple of toilet rooms.
Yeah, I think that's for building code requirements, just building up the space, we'd have to have the additional 2 facilities in there.
So this one that, I don't know, speaking just casually, this one feels right for a capital campaign for the library, you know. It's not to say that town funds may have something to do with this as well, part, but I mean, this is the type of project that rental library assists with, you know, like a real marketing and a capital
Yeah.
adventure that builds community support over time and fundraises in advance of the project.
I think too, that would give lots of, towns people the opportunity to understand how they could engage with the library. Like, I'm not sure, I have, 5 teens at home, well, 4, yeah, Charlotte's in school, but, there's, I'm not sure, I would love to just drop them off there.
Yeah.
And say, I'll pick you up in 3 hours. I would love that. So if there was an opportunity to make the library a place like that, I am all for it. I wanna make sure that it's a part of the library that's kind of like showing off a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's also gonna take more, as you indicated in your proposal, it's gonna take more staff forever to staff it, because you can't have teenage staff
Yeah.
there by themselves.
Otherwise, yeah, we'd have to be down, we'd have to basically, plan for it or lock up that space and then only open it when we know that there's gonna be use of it, which
Right.
is not ideal.
Right, right.
Steve,
Oh, sorry.
sorry, voices coming out of the wall, I know.
There you go.
Just could you just go back quickly to when you were talking about how to fund this work? You mentioned something, I think you were talking about possibly state grant funds and a combination with local funds. Could you just go over that quickly again?
Yeah, so there's a state grant through the Connecticut State Library. There's two different types of grants. One is usually for new builds and another is for significant renovations or expansion. We would fall under that second one. Those grants can cover up to 50% of a proposed cost. So I think when we did the tour and just even, I think eyeballing the square footage, it was somewhere between $300,000 to $400,000, possibly 350 to finish that. So if we got a 50% grant, $175,000, we would be able to find through some of our investment funds and other areas, we could potentially self-fund it, and this wouldn't even be necessary. This was just definitely more of a placeholder, just in the off chance we don't get it. In my prior life, I did work with the current state reps at Representative Nuccio, and we have a good relationship. They're a big reader, big library lover, so I'd also be heavily on their legislative services and their aides to maybe help out with the application process and maybe help us work our way with stakeholders to push that grant to being a reality versus a potential.
So.
Okay.
And then-
I just want to follow up on that. Sorry. So you did mention investment funds there. So you're talking about money from your own, if we want to call it endowment or whatever. Correct?
Yeah, that would be correct.
Okay,
There
because
was
I do remember, this has been talked about for years and years with the library, and I've been on CIP and Board of Finance during previous conversations about this exact project. I know it's been a dream for a long time for the library, and I know that we've had discussion before about where the library's funds on hand could be used to help with budget issues and various other things. And one of the things that's always been commented over the years is we have money that was specifically donated for the teen center build out. And so we couldn't touch it for any other reasons. It was supposed to be used just for that. So I assume those are the funds you're talking about. And do you know just quickly a rough number of what that amount is?
the main account that we have that I believe most of the funds were packaged into. I think unfortunately a lot of donations got bundled into various things like CDs but our state investment or STIF fund is upwards of $290,000 to $300,000 currently. And it's growing at probably around 7 to 9% a year. So that would be probably the biggest pool of potential funds to be utilized, as it's been sitting there for many, many years. So that would be a prime area to pull from it.
Okay,
I will say
thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem. Like, I'll just
Sorry.
also add, we are working on, and this is going to be probably a preview for the budget presentation next week, is we are working on an endowment and investment fund policy with the library board to make that a recurring source of revenue. So pulling it from the CDs that are only earning between 3 to 5% and getting those CDs into a formal investment fund with either a private investment manager, or our other option right now is the Community Foundation of Eastern Connecticut does endowment funds, and they work with libraries and other nonprofits, but they all say the same 7 to 9%. So we'd be doubling our returns and setting up a policy that would allow us to pull 5% of the value or the earnings every year back to the library as a revenue item. So that, I think what you're alluding to, that we would be asking less of the town and over time growing that. I think doing quick figures, I think it was, if we started with $100,000 endowment investment fund and didn't touch it and it earned an average of 7%, it might take 30 years to grow, but the markets have been wild the past 6 years. Some years were really rough and others are 13, 15%, depending on the fund's performance. So,
I mean, we're not gonna get,
yeah, too deep in that.
we're not gonna get deep into your budgetary considerations,
Yeah.
but, this. For my part, this still remains obviously very conceptual, preliminary as a proposal. I do think it will be important as this becomes more real over the years, between now and. When this is up in the queue as a more tangible project, that you should be able to speak to the budgetary implications of staffing,
Yeah.
for Board of Finance and.
Yeah.
My bigger concerns and what I hope we can get to the view between now and that development is that I am I think that's grossly under budgeted for what scope and scale of this project is. Big. I think you're gonna spend $400,000 just putting those bathrooms in. In all realistically, if you're trenching to get to it, fitting out. You know, if that were an isolated bathroom project, maybe integrated. Bathrooms right. There are bathrooms right there, but you know, it's too fully infrastructure. I guess what I'm saying is, I don't. I suspect this is going to be
$750.
a multiplier of 400,000. Depending on what we do, so I think there's. I mean, this is a helpful start, and you could probably get somebody to start putting, a
Just-
realistic instructions.
Just for the simplicity of this concept drawing, you're telling us, this,
Yeah,
and I'm not being,
Yeah, no, you're good.
the community room, you're saying the community room, that little bit of hallway, $25,000 worth of carpet. Take that square footprint, now you're at
Yeah.
75 to 80,000 just in carpet. Right?
This could be $400 a square foot.
Right.
Which is 2.2 million at 6,000 square feet. I'm not saying this whole thing is gonna be fit out that, like, I'm just, it depends on what you're looking to do, and I think there's. You know, this could probably be, developed further, with just a rough order of magnitude estimate, if you can solicit, I don't know, get these plans for you, but you know, there's a step there where you kind of. Get a more complete picture.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna interject as someone who has no idea what you guys are talking about. I feel like Steve has done what he needed to do for tonight, right? I just wanna make sure that, I don't want you to leave feeling like you didn't do what you were supposed to do.
No, no,
And
no.
I think that this is year 5, right? Is it?
Year 3.
You're three, so.
Yeah, but it's a
So
little
if
bit,
if he wants, like you said, if he wants to start going for a grant, he's gotta start next year. So we're just trying to explain to him that it's not,
And I think he's
the numbers
also
aren't there.
thinking, because the bond payment's gonna be gone. After next year, that we would just basically pay that bond payment into this fund
Right.
to do this.
So there's a stack of, I'm just trying to understand what then we should be asking for people to do, because there's like a stack of stuff here that, Steve, I'm sorry to talk about you looking at here. I know you're right there. That Steve brought in for us to see. So I just want to inform people better if they should bring different things. Cause you
So-
guys are in the business, so you have a different knowledge set than,
So,
I'll just speak for myself.
no, it's a good point, Jen. So what I'm trying to do, this is great as a submission, for, you know, a prospective project that you're thinking about on the radar, so that we can start to consider. What we're offering, what I'm offering as a conversation is suggestions to help develop this to a point where, because once this becomes a year 1 request, you're gonna need a lot of this detail, and some of it takes some time.
Yeah.
So, you know, having a fuller, better rough order of magnitude budget,
Yeah.
for this type of work, or this type of project is something you should start thinking about how to start pulling together.
yeah, there's a conference coming up in April that there's usually a big component of it's the Connecticut Library Association. They have a 2-day or 2.5-day conference. One big aspect is usually vendor breaks, and there's usually multiple vendors in there that are specifically geared towards expansions, renovations, that kind of work. It would be really getting in contact with them, and probably over the summer, or if not, you know, late spring, having them come in and actually look at that blueprint, that rough idea, and really scope out what that could cost.
The other thing to consider is to design and engineering of this work. It's gonna be separate from the construction contract.
Yeah.
Essentially, so
we would have covered.
is that a separate project?
Yeah,
And that's something you can start to pull together an RFP to get, you know, if you're serious about the work, be prepared to do. there might be a funding request in there in advance of this to help you develop that project if it's a consideration. If it's not able to be grant funded separately, so just, I'd ask you to consider start looking at that, because that'll also assist you in getting rough order of magnitude budgets, together for a larger project.
Yeah.
But those are, I think, are the next steps, this is still perspective, so.
Yeah, it's a good conversation.
No, but that's it, that's just it, that's why we're here, that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation, because, you know. All of them will find ways to get from them. Right.
And it's a,
Yeah, and this is, it's gonna take a minute.
Yeah.
Is that? Oh, Jim, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else? Library. Excellent. All right, no. Next up, library security cameras,
Year one.
year one, 2514,
Yeah, so that's also just a
$45,000.
a pretty high priority, just a safety structural integrity.
I'm gonna go through pretty good.
Okay,
Yeah. Through the back door, come in the back, how do you get out without alarms going off?
Alarms, Bill, I got noticed the superintendent's gonna be here till wee hours in the morning, so you can go out and you want, the alarms are gonna
You
turn.
can go out.
Yeah,
Downstairs.
Don't worry about alarm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's for
see you tomorrow. Yeah,
Safer.
drive safe.
Um,
But yeah, so
so security cameras.
yeah, security cameras, what's in there right now, is really not, I think when we did the tour, it's not an ideal system. The brand itself is really more of a residential security system. It doesn't cover a lot of areas in the library. There's been issues with access and connectivity. And this would be an opportunity to replace what's there, hardwired into the network, have it be something more comparable to probably what is even attached to this building in terms of hardwired, just so it's more connected and more accessible. We did last year over the summer, one vendor that we talked to, Mercado, they sent us out multiple cameras just to kind of get a feel of what it would be like. There's obviously some wariness about security cameras in a building that didn't have a lot of them in the past, but most people are, and especially staff, are aware of the fact that it's a safety mechanism. It keeps them safe, it keeps patrons safe. You know, even something as simple as in the past 10 years when one of the lampposts got knocked down, having video recording and video record of that to be able to give to insurance or police or anything like that. But yeah, it's very involved. It's very and part of the cost would potentially include a 5 to 10 year licensing fee, I believe, with the cameras themselves. But even when we had the test camera, it was great to be able to, from my, like if I heard a scream from the front circulation area, I could be on my computer and have the tab open for the Verkada camera and check and see, did someone fall and I need to call an ambulatory service, or is it just a kid really excited because they saw a friend coming?
Right.
You know, the staff can certainly handle it, but if it's something that's an extreme situation. But there have also been issues where we did have an incident where one of the downstairs bathrooms, water was left running all night. It was hot water. So that kills our propane, and you know, there's not a readily accessible camera that covers the downstairs bathrooms. There's just other areas where there are blind spots that should be covered for safety and just general availability. Usually throughout the day, the downstairs really isn't open unless there's a program going on, but the elevator's there, and if bathrooms upstairs are in full use, you know, if someone's in an emergency, they're not going to deny them access to the basement. They can still get down to the elevator. And we had looked into potentially closing off the elevator during certain times of the day, and has its own set of liability ADA issues. So we just have to be ready for that. So
Is this the same kind of cameras that they have here and at the schools, or?
it'd probably be comparable. I know for the vendor I might have submitted that gave a full quote as a different company and a different style camera, but it would be probably comparable to what would be in municipal buildings and schools in terms of motion tracking. I know for one of the vendors that we had the in-person tour with, they did talk about the fact that obviously because we deal with a lot of children, that they can have filters in for certain cameras in areas, or even just automatic detection that it wouldn't record their base, that it would blur it out if they're under 18 or if they're a certain, if they're children.
We have two quotes in here.
Okay, so I may have included the Verkada one.
We have LDI Connect for $57,976.50. Then a much bigger package.
101. Here's the 101.
And security 101, for which is less than.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were there.
39.
But you mentioned one of them you think is
Verkada's,
residential side.
or no, sorry, Night Owl is what we have now. That's more residential. Verkada, which is probably the more expensive quote. Really, really friendly sales guy, great to be able to test out the camera, but you talking to,
Which one's Verkada?
More expensive.
the more expensive one.
Okay, thank you.
LDI
LDI Connect.
Yeah. Talking to the other vendor, they actually do work with Verkada and they had a good working relationship with them, but they shared with me some concerns about their systems. And so they recommended guiding us to other areas. The vendor that has that more lower than 45,000 quote is also a vendor through the Connecticut Library Consortium, which we're a member of. So we get additional benefits with them to help keep those costs down. So if we were to go forward with them or another vendor, we would try and field it out to other vendors that possibly handle security that work with the Connecticut Library Consortium, just because there's additional discounts there, there's reliability, there's references from other libraries that have used them for systems, so. And that was actually a group that I met earlier this year when there was a vendor expo. Or actually it was last November, there was a vendor expo down near me, even that's how we kind of started this conversation, got them in to get a quote and get that to you guys as soon as possible.
Between the cameras here and this is where they just. I just see the person. 4 or 5 different vendors, right? And then we can get a discount if the school in the town hall, another building, it's all the same cameras. To get them there, so it's under one. Kind of larger thing, and maybe get a better discount because we've got multiple buildings.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know whether it's the cameras.
I don't know that.
Whether they card access as well, whether it's all.
right, I don't know that answer, I was just curious, that's all.
Yeah, that's a good thought. No, I think they had been asked too if I knew who the vendor was for the town and I didn't, so. I didn't want to reach out.
I mean, I'm just,
We know somebody who might be able to find that information for you. Hey, Mike?
in 1A.
Well, when he figures out how to.
I was sorry, I was trying to unmute. Sorry.
Do we know who the vendor is for whatever security systems we have here at town office building and or?
Yeah, I was listening to this, and actually I was making a list of things to email Steve about after the meeting's over. I have some stuff I'd like to discuss with him about that. If it's okay, if he and I take that offline, I'll give him some information that he can call them tomorrow if you want to get, some different or updated information or another quote. And also I want to talk about some of the stuff with the phone and the elevator 911 phone, because I have some conversations going on with our emergency management, our insurers, and our IT people about some contingency planning and business continuity stuff. And I think it would make sense for this all to be coordinated.
Well, that'd be great. No, and I have been meaning to meet with you too, just knowing that you were elected recently. So I think I reached out to Shannon about setting up a time, but just with budget season and everything, I hadn't penciled down a date.
Yeah,
Usually
it's been a little bit busy, that's for sure. Yeah, so Steve, let's connect in the next couple of days. Is that good, Jim?
Yeah, that works for me. And
Yeah, I
think
was just trying to see if we could get a discount through multiple things, that's all.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's definitely an opportunity to get to look at that for sure. Yep, there's a lot of stuff going on that I'm trying to sort of all corral together and make something that looks cohesive out of it.
Yeah, so Steve, when you have a chance to connect,
Yeah.
if you have any follow-up or are able to reach out to a supplemental vendor, you're very good about communicating, so just,
Yeah, absolutely.
follow up and we'll be everything.
Well, I will actually also just share, I think Mike might have been on call for it in terms of emergency services, in terms of camera. We actually had a birthday party a few weeks ago and there was an incident where the fire alarm went off and the downstairs smelled very strongly of a particular odor and they said up and down it wasn't them. I think Mike, you might have told the Tab at that point, he's like, there's no way like that they weren't doing something in one of the bathrooms that,
Peter was.
yeah. But, that's again, it's another incident where if we had cameras down there, we would know who's coming in and out and we just want to make sure people that are using the space are safe, but also held liable if they're doing things that could potentially damage the building, require unnecessary use of emergency services, come down for any reason, so.
All right,
I just have one question, and maybe it's fruitless at this point, but on the one quote from one of the Security 101, on the biggie, like a map of where all the cameras and everything would be, on the lower level, they only have what's fitted out now, which makes sense. You don't want to put cameras where there's nothing at. But with technology changing at the rate that it is,
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes sense to like look into having stuff that is going to be easily compatible in the future,
Yeah.
if when the team center stuff gets moving, they can be compatible.
Yeah.
How much those cameras are gonna be in the future
Yeah.
to
Thanks. And I think with that map, there were a couple of pinpoints that I think, again, they're using the software to the best of their ability. I think at least one they put in a different room than where it was intended. So there's a couple areas where we'd have to adjust it. But yeah, no, they would mostly cover cameras that already are in place that be replaced, but also expanding to other areas. And some of them were more advanced cameras, like ones that, like for the kids area, their proposal was one dedicated camera be essentially in the center of the kids area and be like a fisheye lens that would cover the whole area. One for pointing towards the exit was like more of what they called like a bullet camera that would be able to track make, model, license plates of people coming and going in case there was, if they were a fender bender and someone drove off any other vehicle that got hit, we'd be able to track it and, say, okay, what was the make and model or color of the vehicle and be able to try and get that to since of the person's out, but.
all right.
Yep.
All right, 2519,
I think that's the last one.
second to last one, the one that wasn't formal submission, through the portal.
Oh, yeah, there was that one too.
So this is the giant stack. A lot of manufacturer standard. Promotional material material. Boil this down for us, Steve.
Yeah, so when we had the building tech come out to do an assessment of the roof, it was right after, I think, a smaller snow event. So we couldn't really get to every aspect of the roof, but a lot of it had melted. When we got up there, he immediately pointed out areas where the nails are pushing back up against the shingles and that there's very clear signs that the roof is starting to fail. I think he might have thrown around a word, and I might be butchering it, but like an installer's roof, there's something where it's like, he said essentially it was a 20-year roof. So it's reaching its end of life and it's probably going at a faster rate than it should be, but it's pretty much right lined up that it's reaching the end of life. There was one section that he had found where he kind of touched it, like went to go move it and saw that it was ready to basically rip off with several other shingles. And he basically said there was like a microburst incident or some, it was semi-isolated, it was right near the flat roof, but if a good windstorm hit in the right spot, it could rip off a significant portion of the shingled roof in one area. And yeah, no, it's just reaching the end of life. They had talked about getting, when the new shingles will be installed, closer to a 30 to 40-year lifespan versus a 1 year. So you'd also want to invest in something that, again, if they come back in 20 years, it could be 30 to 40.
Well, I know during our walk,
I think that one I put for 2728,
Yeah, it's a year too for 90,000.
Yeah. I guess question that I have, and I don't know, would it be worthwhile to look into? For the metal roof on, then one and done, no part. Maybe a little bit more expensive, that's in the operating long term. Maybe cheap.
You considered alternatives besides what I believe is an asphalt?
I'd be willing to research alternatives. I know probably from a aesthetics perspective from the building, and I'm assuming the shingles were intended to kind of give the library building a certain vibe when you approach it. You know, I'm not saying that metal can't do that, but that would be something they probably have to explore.
I mean, the aesthetics, I get it, the aesthetics
Yeah.
of the building, I totally understand. This is. Some of them are out there that are pretty decent. It's not just, sometimes it's just.
The only other thing with the roof too that we're keeping in consideration, it's not part of this capital plan. I mean, there's also a lot of other discussions to have is we have been working with WISE about solar. I think I mentioned that it wasn't gonna be something that put a capital request in to support it, but there might be opportunities to lease the roof with the Connecticut Green Bank or other resources where we would still get some revenue from it,
But
you know?
again, they can still put metal, they can still put solar.
Okay, yeah, that's what I wasn't sure of. Yeah,
Yes, they can.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
I've seen it, I've done it.
yeah.
All right, so somewhere on all this paper, there is a quote here for $67,377. The request is for $90,000.
And so that could be tacked down. I think it was just because there's only one quote. I didn't wanna
Yep.
lowball a roof replacement and then
But, and I think
have an issue.
then they,
Well, there's 67 for the asphalt section.
and then 35
for the flat.
But he's got a separate, yeah, so the,
but there's a separate request for the, right, so.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and I know what you're saying. I think I tried to say like 90,000 would be probably the total cost of doing both at the same time,
Right.
potentially.
And then-
If we were to go that route as an alternative to doing and having them on the same schedule for repair and replacement versus letting the rubberized roof go for a few more years and focus on this. So that number could go down, you know, knowing there's a contingency, maybe 75 to 80 compared to the 90.
Mike, do you know how big Wellington Hills is? From a area standpoint?
I did, but I'm racking my brains right now. I can't come up with a number.
Just because we have another roof project this year too for the fire department, $70,000 for what I believe is a much smaller. That's
Oh, it's definitely smaller.
than what the library, got to go for 70,000 is a lot, right?
Right.
So I mean, I flag that for discussion on our part.
I think part of that though was. They had a.
Yeah, it's this too.
Yeah, but it's an ad.
Yeah.
It's not in that.
I'm not sure what they have. We'll ask them. Just,
That's what free. I did see it was like 2.2 or something.
And I will say so far, I haven't seen anything structurally like, I think in the past and before my time in Deadwood Pond history, I think there was an incident with the roof where they had to do repairs because there was water coming in. I think at one point I haven't seen any new water damage. But yeah, just it's something to keep in mind is as if we were to push this out to a later year, it's just every year that we see more signs of failure, it's just probably more risk of the elements getting hurt. Yeah.
going once?
Good.
All right. Last up, Steve.
Yeah, that last request I think I sent to you, the email, just because it had last from all the submissions is,
Yeah, he couldn't upload this to the portal, so this doesn't have an up there yet.
yeah, so the AV system, again, it's original to the building. The audio itself works pretty well outside of the wiring is, and the case, the stand where a lot of the tech is should probably be replaced. But our control panel for everything about a year and a half ago short circuited. We had a volunteer in town that they use the library a lot for their family, and they host a family event, I think once or twice a month, like a kids night, like pajama party, movie night. Their husband was an electrician and was able to basically for free, they replaced the panel so at least it could read, but it really is not functional. So we're looking to replace that panel and the screen, the projector for the community room is also, again, 20 years old. It's gonna be it would be significantly more expensive to try and repair that versus replacing it. So we're looking to upgrade that to a new projector. I think there were two options there. I think as a part of the request or the rough estimate, I went for the higher end model, but that's not, to me, I would be willing to go lower. They recommended it because there is some light that comes in from the outside that it improves the image quality, but the other one is the more budget friendly option. I think it was like the Lumen option, like 3,500, like the 6,500 is the higher end one, but the 3,500 is. And I did get an updated quote from them to do the whole project as a single quote, but I think that just came in a couple days ago, and I hadn't got the time to send it to you.
So, yeah, we have phase 1 and 1.5, phase 1.5.
Yeah, they initially tried to break it out in the event we could get other sources of funding to do partial repairs or do like phased work, so I tried to provide some of the partial quotes all together to try and package it into a single cost. But I can make a note to send that combined.
I'm trying to understand the total for phase.
Phase 1 and phase 2, 2000.
Phase 1 is 2,064.
Phase 1 and 1.9.
1.5 is 4. Phase 2. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, sorry, this is probably the more confusing one. I can send the full quote if it's better.
I guess I'm trying to understand, like, what are we actually looking at if we boil down?
Yeah, it would be redoing the wiring. I think the 2,000 figure was just probably for the general cost of labor to do all the rewiring, the installation and removal of hardware, the control panel and the projector and replacing that. And then the projector itself, I think was anywhere from I think there are two options. I think one was 1,600.
1,700 and one was 3,600.
Yeah, so 3,600 one was their recommended, but would certainly, I think when I put the quote in, it was considering that higher option, but I would be willing to drop it down to the more budget friendly one. But the big drive for this is it is a revenue generator to have that projector for private events, for functions. But it also works with the library for our movie showings that we use. The Friends pay for the license so we can get movies every year. We use the projector for author talks, other presentations.
All right, so 8,000 plus, or 8,000 includes.
Yeah,
What kind of revenue do you get from check? I guess.
from the room rental, I mean, the room rental itself, we average around 1,000. I think for the budget request, we upped it by out to 1,100 just because we had been seeing an increase in use. We are getting a lot, we're trying to advertise it a lot more and get a lot more knowledge because people do come in and they see that big room and don't even know it's available. And we keep it relatively affordable. We have considered adjusting our prices. I don't know when the last time they were changed, but we charge right now $25 an hour is the flat rate to use the room. I think there's an additional $15 or $30 charge for the kitchen, and then an additional charge if the renter doesn't take their trash with them, that we handle it.
Is this when you say that it's a fine line between us as a town funding it and them funding it, right? Because they're collecting the revenue of something that was brought to the town.
Right.
Right? I mean, I want to be clear.
Yeah.
That's, this is a very fine line.
Yeah, no, there have been talks with a few different folks about really firming up what we use the revenue for. Because right now there's a revenue line item, but there's not necessarily a matching expense line item, but we can pull from it if we say want to use it for custodial supplies to maintain cleaning and upkeep of that space. Whether it's, yeah.
So. Yes.
Right?
But no, I agree with you.
That's the Board of Finance.
I understand, but it's just a point I wanted to make.
Yeah.
Then
It's a
about-
community asset,
about,
but yeah. It's also a revenue generator, I agree
Right,
with you.
it's.
Yeah.
We can call it 50/50, right?
Yeah.
I mean, basically, I mean, again, it's just, if it's 50/50, to me, it's a fine line where things,
So,
it's not like it's a 90/10, right?
yeah, so in my mind, I mean, what our role is really validate the.
request.
Request.
Right, and that's where it's
And
at,
that gets into
right?
our plan. They're ultimately gonna have to sell to Board of Finance and the townspeople as well, so it's not,
That's
you know.
fine. I'm just,
No, I completely get it, Jeremy. I'm not trying
And
to.
we are also looking at other funding sources potentially, initially, when I did that phased aspect, it was because we had considered the Friends covering parts of it, but just knowing they've been restructuring how they allocate funds to the library for programming materials. This felt like a very big ask to make of them while they've been changing and really reformatting their finances and how they support the library throughout the year. So this is where I just wanted to get this as another option out there. And I think like you're saying about the library expansion, this could be maybe a community support projects, if you funded it, similar to the 3D printer that we just got funding for from a Neo Smith student that was doing for their senior project. That could be a similar endeavor.
Just skimming, I don't see a year for this request.
I don't think I don't think I did give you one. It would probably be year two. Just because it is functioning now, but it would be something that, again, it's still functional. It still works, but as it continues to age, if it outright dies, then, we're losing out on, we're kind of in some ways wasting the Friends' money for the license that they pay for every year, which is $300 to $500 a year to cover the rights for us to show any of our movies in the library, as well as if we don't have the projector, people are less likely to use it. Even civic groups, town, like the Historical Society routinely uses it for their functions. Conservation Commission has used it for their functions and educational programs, so that because there's an AV system available and it can fit up to 120 people, so we try to support. 120 is really if everyone's in really a school setting.
Yeah.
We actually did have someone reach out today wanting to use a space for a party, and they had mentioned possibly up to 100 people. So we strongly encourage them, like, if it's 100 people, they're all gonna be just mingling around. You can't set up all the tables and have like a sit down meal kind of thing. Like there's different, so they're gonna come and take a look at it. But we're always trying to promote that as a use both for private and public use.
Better time.
Yeah, no worries.
Good. Anybody else? I meant to check that our spreadsheet to make sure we went over everything, but I'm pretty sure we did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's everything. I mean, every day, when we did the tour, there were other projects that we just haven't had the time. I we need contractors to come out and take a look. When they paved part of the parking lot and covered access points with the drainage. I think there's a few other things that, long term, probably not 5 years, maybe 9 or 10 years, is parking lot replacement for the part that should be paved. Checking that drainage system, making sure it's working. I know DPW came out and have done routine cleaning, and we've had like not microscope, I'm forgetting the term, basically a scope that could go under and check to make sure that where it should be draining is actually going out to daylight like it should be.
Did you, in follow-up, so you not to put anything else on the plate necessarily, but outside of what's been formally submitted, if you could generate, I guess, a list of things you're potentially considering. Just so that we're aware of things that we have something for parking lot. I'm not saying to capture anything for it, but I'd like to, if we
if it's on
understand,
your radar in 5 years.
yeah, we should know.
We should actually kind of see it,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
just to put it there as a placeholder. Something, yes. I mean,
One that I'm hoping could be fully funded with grants is we actually reached out to the WISE community and we had some come in a week or so ago to do an assessment of all our lighting to potentially upgrade it with Eversource and get it. And there is a Association of Rural and Small Libraries grant that anywhere ranges from $5,000 to $15,000 and it can include energy efficiency upgrades. So that's one that I'm hoping if I can get this lighting quote back from, I think the grant opportunity might be opening up soon. If we can fully fund that, then I wouldn't come to you guys for it, but that would be one is just upgrading our lighting. Our interior lighting could be a significant project if we did it all at once versus piecemeal.
They're original.
Yeah, they're original. Probably still.
Yeah, well. Careful, because the schools are still.
I
know lighting, I'm pretty, getting into those contracts is great, but. Yeah, no, I think it would be helpful, even if it's, just. So that we can track it,
Yeah.
as we try to do a better job of, even if it's on an out year or like off plan, tracking, I think it would just be helpful to be aware of it, so we can follow up with you next year as well and see where things are going, and.
There's definitely, yeah, some bigger ticket items, even like our HVAC system. I will just share anecdotally, we've actually had a fan that's been underperforming in the back staff office, so it struggles when it gets below freezing like the past few days. I'll come in and it's below 60 and it's supposed to be at 68 and it might get to 68 by closing time. We've been waiting on 2 months for the part because I think the brand is Lennox and it's not as popular and it's not as accessible. So that was something they said is long-term, you might want to consider a full replacement of your HVAC system. Even though they did spend about $8,000 last year doing a bunch of repairs to maintain it. That will probably be a significant project down the line.
And this is where something like a preventative maintenance, and
Yeah.
understanding of, you know,
Just even come up with a PM plan, just so you, good, we know the equipment. Obviously, we know the gauge, it's 20 years, but your furnaces were new
Yeah,
the last few years.
Yeah.
That was in that space, it's gotta be fit out for a block.
Yeah.
It's just nice to know the age of the equipment.
Yeah.
So some of us know what the lifespan is.
yeah, it's not
Just-
just the
it helps.
library,
Yeah.
it's just a larger conversation that we, as a community, figure it out for us,
Yes.
institutionally, so. All right. Steve, I think we've kept you long enough.
no worries.
I
Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much.
Yeah, of
Thanks
course.
for coming in,
Yeah,
and
thank
thanks for the diligence on this, Steve. It's very helpful to have a lot of data.
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to share as much as I can. I figure more information is better, but I do apologize for the waste, the waste
No,
of
no,
paper.
It's one of those things, it's just, hey, Lisa print it all rather than try to sort it out, even when I try to edge it off, it gets by accident, so. All right. We have one last, so the assessor's office, moving on to library and on to assessor. Sarah's obviously not here tonight, but this is not a request that
This
is not argumentative.
No.
So it's gradual funding for the reval to request total amount $87,000 for 5 years, but it's so that the cost to do the reval as required every 5 years, it's
I just wanna make it clear that we're in a 4-year cycle of this next reval, not a 5-year.
correct.
So I
And
don't know if we should do something different, because she has it as 5 years. At the end of the 4th year, we're gonna be short $70,000.
so she had this structure built in, I think she writes it in her thing here. Total cost is projected to,
I mean, that's the only problem.
yeah, I mean, I can follow up with her via email, but she's planning for the valuation in 2028 over 4 years, so she split the 85,000.
Over 5.
Yeah, that's
That's what I'm saying.
Well, if you had the year prior savings, like,
But it's a 4-year rebound, not a 5-year
but we want 6 years.
before, so that's
So
still,
it's still,
is that other funding still there?
I think so.
I suspect
Okay.
that's, it didn't cost more, we just got it next year, you know.
We
like,
got an extra year for free.
yeah, we're not-
You just, it's not free,
Not
but
for
it's
free.
prorated.
But we were saving for it,
Yeah, that's why in the last year,
and it was,
28, 29, it drops down to 17,000. Instead of 17.5, but. Okay. But
Yeah, I mean, I will ask the confirm, I'm gonna make a mental.
It's just, yeah, it's just, I'm just, like I said, I know it's a 4-year reval, we see 5 years here and said, well, good luck. But that's all I have.
I will reach out to Kara. Just see if I can get that confirmation that she's all set. That is it for requests for tonight's. Thank you to all the board departments for your submissions and for presenting. Moving on to old business. This is a follow-up to our conversation last week about budget season outreach. I did update that letter. It's kind of a regurgitation of the prior years with an updated calendar, just as a community, we're talking about this stuff already. As you can see, we don't have anybody online, so when this all gets to budget season and we have a plan and nobody's aware that anything's happening, it's just recurring effort to try to get community engagement in this process before we get to the end time. So.
And this will go out as a letter and, well, not as a
Well, this,
written letter, but as an email.
that is a question for Mike. Mike, if we were to, if the SBC, admittedly, we did have trouble getting letters out, via email blast, previously. So Mike, I'm gonna ask, is this something that, if the CIP committee issues just kind of a status letter as you have here, is this something that we could potentially have pushed out via email blast to those who get CIP info and maybe a
So what
document links?
So what you're saying is you mean like the general public that signed up to get CIP notifications?
Correct.
Or all.
We're all
What
notifications.
options do we have? Yeah, it's to get word out that CIP is doing its thing.
I think we could do that a couple different ways, yes. You just want a general status update to the public is what you're saying.
Yeah, so the committee's gonna has a letter draft here that we'd issue on behalf of the committee, just making as a statement, basically saying this is where we are, as we advance the budget season process. How do we get it out beyond a random link on our CIP page that people will never see?
So I think the outreach is an excellent idea, but I think you need to send it to the Board of Selectmen for approval because you are a subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen. So I think that's the proper path for it to take.
That's the direction I'm looking for.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood exactly what you were going for. So yes, good idea, and send it up.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what we tried to do last time. So we'll try it again.
Let's see how we do this time.
So have you guys had a chance to peruse this?
It's good, yeah,
Comments?
that's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'll make the motion, I'll move that the CIP committee approves the town outreach letter dated January 21st, 2026, and requests from the board of requests avenues for distribution through the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
All right, Jason took the second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Actually, I'm gonna do roll call because I know where Mike's gonna go on this. Yeah, Peter?
Aye.
Good.
Aye.
Jeremy? Aye.
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 Mike?
Aye.
Oh, never mind.
Melissa?
Aye.
All right, beautiful. Never mind. We could have done without the roll call, but I appreciate it. Mike, I'll send this out to the selectmen's office tomorrow if I can remember, find the bandwidth.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. Next up is present to speak. There's nobody online. Steve, I'm sure you type your say.
I was only gonna share that if you wanna send me a copy of the group report itself, we can try and display it in the library, just additional in-person foot traffic, which either do our community bulletin board or on our space for votes.
I think that's something that once the Board of Selectmen gives its blessing for distribution, that once I have that, I will make a note to forward along, and I appreciate the effort.
That's an excellent idea, actually. Yes. It gets lots of foot traffic and keep it spot, there's some information.
All right. So they can find
Hey, Jim,
yes, sir.
Jim.
Yes,
I couldn't get the answer in time during the exact conversation, so I think present to speak is a good spot. I believe if my research is correct, the delay in the reval delays the whole 5-year schedule, I believe. So it basically pushes it out. So you still have a 5-year instead of going to 4 years to get back to your original cycle date.
Oh. All right, well, that's different than what
That's
was
different
submitted
than what was told to all of us before, so. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
so I'm looking at ct.gov, and that's as best research as I can find right now. And they have I guess we'll find out more about it.
Yeah, what I'll do, Mike, is I'll reach out to Kara and just ask her to confirm, that the request satisfies her need for the anticipated draw for the next reval. And that if there's any coordination, that perhaps you reach out to the selectmen's office to just confirm. So that, I just want to make sure for our purposes that we're covering the right value.
Yep, gotcha.
Perfect. No other present to speak. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'm gonna motion to adjourn.
I'm gonna give that to Jeremy.
No,
Pete, I'm gonna give that one to you. You get the second.
you got my consent.
Sir. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Melissa, say it for me.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, motion's unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you for bearing with us at the start.